One of the latest videos put out by Jews for Judaism is from a man I knew little about named Julius Sis. In his video, he speaks about how the early Jesus Hebrew community began and how he was a part of building it. To summarize the video, which is almost 2 hours long, after accepting Jesus as the Messiah and becoming a very important leader in what would later be called the Jews for Jesus community, he began to have some doubts about the movement that he was in. And at first, he thought these doubts were coming from Satan. So he resisted these doubts because he knew the devil would try to get him to doubt. However, he states, once I started getting a whole bunch of doubts, he began to state that like a proverbial house of cards, his Christian faith began to fall apart. Julius, who says there are countless examples, gives about 3 that shook him, and seemed to be the main, but I might be wrong, catalyst that caused him to return back to Judaism. Or said another way, Julius was in a lack of knowledge about how to respond to at least 3 objections by the rabbis, and did not stand in faith, but was destroyed by a lack of knowledge. I'll look at one of these that Rabbi Singer also comments on in an online article on Psalms 22, verse 16. The link to the article is posted in the comments section below. Psalms 22:16 from Tanakh reads, "For dogs have encompassed me, a company of evildoers has enclosed me. Like a lion, they are at my hands and my feet." Like a lion, or ka'ari in Hebrew, cannot mean pierced, as your Christian versions of the Old Testament translate it according to Mr. Sis and Rabbi Singer, which goes off the Septuagint or Greek translation of the Old Testament. It reads, "For dogs have encompassed me, the assembly of the wicked have enclosed me, they pierced my hands and my feet." This discrepancy in translations means, according to Mr. Sis and Tovia Singer, that the Septuagint is inferior to the Hebrew version. Before we continue, if you are here because you want to learn about faith, how to stand in faith, and how faith and standing in the lack of knowledge are synonyms, you can help support my work by liking, commenting, and sharing this video on your social media pages. In fact, if you hate my video, let me know why in the comments section. Rabbi Singer is at pains every time the Septuagint comes up to push a CNN-type narrative that it was created by Christians or heavily edited by Christians to prove non-existent passages of the Old Testament that support the New Testament's version of Jesus as the Christ. Let me give you an example of the superiority of the Hebrew translation of the Bible over the Septuagint based on Genesis 2:2. And for those of you who love the King James, this will hurt a bit. "And on the 7th day, God ended his work which he made, and he rested on the 7th day from all his work which he had made." Most people do not see anything wrong with this, but here is a translation based on the Septuagint's version of the same verse. "On the 6th day, God completed all the work that he had done, and on the 7th day, God rested from all the work that he had done." If God ended his work on the 7th day, like the Hebrew Bible contends, then God was in violation of Sabbath. But the Septuagint's version, God finished his work on the 6th day and rested on Sabbath. What does this mean? Well, in the Septuagint's version, we have an older, more accurate translation of Genesis 2:2 by a Hebrew scribe who translated it into Greek before another Hebrew scribe made an editorial error with the word 7. The main reason we have a Greek translation of any book of the Old Testament is because most Jews in the diaspora couldn't speak their native language fluently anymore, so they needed a translation to read their Bible. Even Sis complained about this in his video. And in these translations, we have preserved in some cases an older, more accurate version of the Old Testament. Not being able to speak Hebrew is common. Even today, Jews read translations of their Bible and not the original Hebrew. And this is even confirmed by Nehemiah long ago. "As for their children, half spoke in the language of Ashdod, and none of them was able to speak in the language of Judah." This is how the Jewish Encyclopedia weighs in on the matter of translations. It is not known when the other books of the Bible were rendered into Greek. The grandson of Ben Sira, 132 BC, in the prologue to his translation of his grandfather's work, speaks of the law, prophets, and the rest of the books as being already current in his day. This brings us to Psalms 22, verse 16 in the Hebrew Bible, and Psalms 22, verse 17 in the Greek translation of the Old Testament, or what Christians, not rabbis, call the Septuagint. What was the Hebrew translator looking at when he translated the verse into Greek? If the translator was looking at ka'ari, then he would have translated it like a lion, wouldn't he? But he might not have been looking at ka'ari. He may have been looking at a much older manuscript, which reads ka'aru. They pierced or they dug. Also, if he was looking at yada, her hands, instead of yadai, he would have translated it accordingly. Rabbi Singer says that ka'aru does not exist in Hebrew. It is little more than Semitic gibberish. But wait a minute. Does Rabbi Singer have an ancient Hebrew dictionary from 4000 or 400 BC? Of course not. Everyone knows we determine a word's meaning in Hebrew from its root. And the first time the root, kara, is used in the Hebrew Bible is in Genesis 26:25. So he built an altar there and called upon the name of the Lord and pitched his tent there. And there Isaac's servants dug a well. The word dug comes from the same Hebrew root, kara. Don't you have to pierce a spade through the ground to dig a well, Rabbi Singer? This reminds me of a few verses in the New Testament. You are no greater than our father Jacob, are you, who gave us the well, and drank of it himself, and his sons, and his cattle. Jesus said to her, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I will give him will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give him will become in him a fount of water, springing up to eternal life. A psalm from our wonderful book of Psalms can be many beautiful things, including an allegory, like in this verse we are discussing. In fact, Rabbi Singer admits as much. He says, and I quote, each and every time the word lion appears in the book of Psalms, King David is referring to a metaphorical lion rather than a literal animal, end quote. I am a wee bit suspicious, Rabbi, why you are seeking a literal translation when you know and have admitted that it is an allegory. Remember, context, context, context. Let's use your supposed correct translation and show how a scribe could have used ka'ari and translated it as pierced, knowing that it is a metaphor. Anytime someone uses a metaphor to explain something, it is always speaking about something literal. For dogs have encompassed me, a company of evildoers has enclosed me. Like a lion, they are at my hands and my feet. Like you said, lion here is not literal, and it is obvious that it refers back to evildoers. Mr. Julius Sis, this brings us back to you, the new front man for Jews for Judaism. Using this original Hebrew and knowing how to interpret a psalm, answer this question based on this psalm, and you will be free. If you woke up, Mr. Sis, in the middle of the Judean desert, half naked, with your flesh ripped open, so that if nothing happened to you, you'd die just from blood loss, and there was a lion at your hands and your feet, what do you think, Mr. Sis, the lion would do? Would it A, lick your hands and your feet? Would it B, rub your hands and your feet with its head? This one might confuse you. I didn't even want to put it in here, but I had to. Would it C, would it sit on your hands and your feet? This one's tough. Or would it D? And I know that this is quite a stretch. Would it pierce through your hands and your feet with its mouth? Mr. Sis and Rabbi Singer, you can leave your answer in the comments section. In fact, everyone can leave their answer in the comments section below.